Hello, welcome to a new video. I am Hannah and I'm going on my holidays. My partner and I have booked a quite last minute holiday to Gdansk up in the north of Poland. So it's going to be a wintry, frosty kind of holiday. But I'm so excited, and we're planning, normally when we do kind of city breaks, they end up not being very relaxing because we're trying to do like loads and loads of stuff and see loads of things. But we have agreed that we're going to have a much more chill pace to this holiday. And so I am sat here the night before we're going. I haven't packed a thing, but I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about what books I want to bring because priorities. So I thought I would just very quickly tell you what books I am packing, and then the next thing you see will probably be some kind of travel-y stuff. So this vlog is probably going to be quite long. For full disclosure, this is the second time I'm recording this intro because the first one I recorded was 13 minutes long, which is too long. So I'm going to be quicker this time. So the books I'm bringing, there are two books that I have already started and will continue to bring with me. The first is The Five by Hallie, Rubenhold, which I am really enjoying. My friend Jess lent this to me because I was looking for a biography for a person that I didn't know much about to meet one of the prompts on the Storygraph genre challenge this year. And I was like, kind of a bit like, it's a bit of a shit. Like, I don't really enjoy reading biographies of people that I don't know anything about. And then Jess said, what about The Five? And I said, that's been on my radar for so long. I would love to read that book. And she's very kindly lent it to me. So it is the lives of the 5 women who were killed by Jack the Ripper. And it is fascinating and brilliant. And I will talk to you about it in more detail at a later point in this video. But I'm really enjoying it, so I didn't want to put this down for a week. I wanted to bring this one with me. And then the other thing that I'm going to be continuing to read is my current audiobook, which is Waterland by Graham Swift, which I'm really liking, although it is a very kind of slow and meandering kind of audiobook, which may or may not be the kind of vibe that I want for an audiobook while I'm on holiday, but maybe it will be. So we'll see. That one I might pause and maybe start something else. If I do start something else, it's going to be Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, who is a very well-esteemed Polish author who I still haven't read. So maybe I'll swap onto her book. And then the other one is War and Peace, which, don't worry, I am not bringing this with me. I am doing the War and Peace read-along Whiskey and Perseverance, which is run by Simon over at Footnotes and Tangents. But I'm listening to the audio of War and Peace, which I'm really enjoying because I've read this book before and liked it. But it's only a chapter a day, so it's not like it's a very stressful or like it doesn't eat into too much of my like normal reading time, because the chapters in War and Peace on audio are maybe like on average like 10 to 15 minutes. So 10 to 15 minutes a day is fine. But yeah, I'll be bringing that, but not this. And then I'm going to be bringing 2 books that I haven't started yet. I was planning on bringing this month's book club pick for Queer Books Newcastle, which is a book club that I am part of up here in Newcastle. And unfortunately, I was about a third of the way through and I decided to DNF it today. It's Dead Girls by Nekesa, Afia, and I'll pop it up here. It is a queer YA book that is set in Harlem in the 1920s, and it's thrillery and crimey and all that good stuff, and I thought I was going to really like it. I generally do not like YA much. It's just, I think I like things at a slower pace, and YA tends to be quite plotty and quite fast, and so it doesn't often work for me. And unfortunately that was just another one that didn't work for me. So I did decide to DNF it because I wasn't hating it at all, and I don't think it was a bad book, but it wasn't a book that I wanted to bring on my holidays. So instead I have picked up this book, which I'm very excited about, which I bought in the Accidental Bookshop in Alnwick, and I went in there and asked them if they could recommend to me a literary fiction novel by an author from the northeast of England, because that is where I live. And one of my reading goals this year, if you're new to my channel and don't know this, is that I'm trying to read more local authors. And this is what they recommended. And it's been sat on my shelf for ages, and what has prompted me to pick it up, partly, is that my reading doppelganger, my friend Evie, we have identical taste in books, has just read it and really, really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, that definitely needs to be one that I pick up when I go on holiday, because I think it's going to be a shoo-in for me really enjoying it. Plus, it's written in these like really quite short vignettes, so I think it's going to be quite handy to be like a book that I can just pick up and read like a little bit of in between doing like holiday things. So that's nice. And then the final book that I will be bringing is we're having a bit of like a Polish time with our holidays recently. We went to Krakow in May last year, and while we were there I picked up this, which is an anthology by the Chicago Review, but it's of new Polish writers, and there are, well, that many writers in it. So it's a mixture of poetry, prose, loads and loads of stuff, and I picked this up secondhand in a bookstore. I did struggle in Krakow to find English language bookstores that had Polish authors in it, weirdly. So if you have any recommendations, and if you have any recommendations for English language bookshops or shops that have English language books in them in Gdansk, I would love to hear that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading some Polish writing while I am out there, because that would just be nice in a reading vlog set in Poland to actually read something Polish. And if I don't get to the Olga Tokarczuk, at least I will have this. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there and do some actual packing, so that I'm taking more than just a pile of books with me. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
We're here. It is now Monday morning. We only arrived on Sunday, you've not lost a day. Had a really lovely time last night. Got in to the hotel around 8:30. Went for some food. Had a little wander around. Had a late start to the morning. Did do a bit of reading, but I'll catch you up on that later. And we're just off to try and find some breakfast and have a little mooch around the old town. So that is what you're going to see next. Forgive the other half blowing their nose.
don't have that long to chat to you because it's now Monday night. We've had a lovely time in Gdansk. It's so beautiful here. So large parts of the city were destroyed in the war, and so it's sort of been rebuilt quite recently, but it's been done in such a way that it was incredibly sympathetic to what the original buildings were. So it just looks like it's in great nick. So I can't decide if I'll be inserting B-roll here now or if you will have already seen some stuff that we got up to today. But we had quite a chilled start to the day. I think I said before this, normally when we do a city break it's quite jam-packed and we try and do like loads and loads of stuff, but we deliberately said we were going to go at a slower pace this time and try and just actually be a bit restorative. So we didn't get up super early this morning. We were out and about by like 11, just kind of having a wander around the old town. Like I said, really beautiful. And what else did we do? We went to the Basilica in the centre of Gdansk and walked up 409 stairs to get to a viewing platform at the top. And it was the most non-British health and safety standards approved journey ever. It was treacherous. But it was beautiful, even though it was quite an overcast day today. So we didn't get like amazing distance views, but it was really helpful to kind of try and like work out where we were in relation to where else we wanted to get to. We tried to go to the Shakespeare Theatre. It wasn't open, but it's also, we managed to like not find the entrance for a really long time, so that was fun. And yeah, we've just had a nice little kind of day of getting kind of situated. Went for some pierogi, obviously. And now tonight we are going to maybe go for a drink and then go for some dinner. And yeah, just kind of have a little mooch around. But I thought I would update you on some reading, as this is ostensibly a reading vlog. So when I was on the plane, I read about 78, approximately 78 pages of the Chicago Review of New Polish Writing. I can't say that this has like been like a wall-to-wall hit with me so far, but I do really appreciate its existence, because I was wondering why I'd found it the last time I was in Poland so hard to find contemporary Polish works that were translated into English. And at the start of this anthology, the editor basically says, yeah, not a lot of Polish literature is translated into English. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I feel less bad for not having been able to find some. But it's really good. So I think I said contemporary. This was actually published in 2000. So, which to me still feels like a year that was like not that long ago, but obviously was about 23 years ago. So it's not like up to the minute, but I've definitely come across some writers that I'm really interested in trying to find more by them. In particular were, fucking hell, I should have checked how to pronounce these. I'm going to put the names up on the screen. Tadeusz Rozowicz. But there was an extract of a longer poem called Recycling in here, which was political and like acerbic and great. I also really liked Ursula Koziol. I don't know how you pronounce that, like L with the little line through it. I should have checked the pronunciations of these before we began this. But yeah, there was a lot of I found a lot of the poetry that I like was translated by the same translator. Catherine was her name? Claire Kavanagh. And then the next piece that I just got to is actually an interview with Claire Kavanagh, so I think that's going to be really interesting. And I will let you know. But yeah, like some good stuff in here, some like not blown away by, but it's quite hard, I think, when you're like sitting down and reading an anthology is probably not like the best way to do it, because you're kind of jumping from like style to style, and I don't always think that's necessarily fair on each individual writer. Not that anthologies shouldn't exist, just that I probably shouldn't read like such a chunk of them in a go. I might maybe just try reading like a couple in the morning before we leave instead. I have also then read another 100-ish pages of The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, and I'm still really, really enjoying this. I can't remember how much I told you about this in the intro. I think it depends if I've included the 7-minute intro or the 13-minute intro. But I am still really, really liking this. I'm finding it incredibly readable for a piece of nonfiction, but also like very retainable. I'm retaining a lot more of the information than I think I normally would, and as I think I said before, I think part of that is because the history that Hallie Rubenhold is painting is so centered on individuals that I find it much easier to grasp and retain that. But it's just desperately sad. I think I'd said before, this is a book that is very much about the lives of these women. It is not about their deaths, but it is, I think Hallie Rubenhold makes no bones about the fact that she is trying to argue against the assumption from contemporary press and, you know, even I think common understanding now of these women, that they were all prostitutes, and that's why they were targeted and how they were targeted, and it just is far more nuanced than that. She makes a really interesting point early on, that none of the victims showed any signs of fighting back. And autopsies suggested that they'd been killed while lying down, and yet no one at the time made the assumption that probably, therefore, what the killer was doing was targeting women while they slept. So not while they were being solicited for sex work, but while they were sleeping. So yes, enjoying this one. Appreciating this one. And I have just started, and I don't have a huge amount to say about it yet, because I'm only 20 pages in, but Saltwater by Jessica Andrews, which I'm really, really liking the writing style of. I think I told you earlier that it's written in these very, very short vignettes, which kind of I have a 50-50 strike rate with. Sometimes I find vignettes really powerful as a kind of fragmented storytelling technique, and sometimes I just find them really I get disgruntled at ideas not having enough time to kind of embed and follow through. But there's a lot of I don't really know yet what it's about exactly, but it's definitely got themes of motherhood and kind of female family relationships, and I'm really, really liking. There's been some beautiful writing in it so far, but yeah, and so far the vignettes are working for me, but I think at some point I will want a bit more kind of an extended period of time to kind of explore some of these bits, because it's flitting around between the main character being in utero and then being in Ireland after their grandfather has died and being in London prior to that happening, and so it is flitting around a lot, and at the moment, like I said, I'm really liking that, but I don't know yet if that will get quite exhausting, or if I'll start to resent it and kind of want to stay in one place for a little bit longer. But yeah, so enjoying that, and I'm going to wrap that up there because I think my partner is very politely waiting in the bathroom after his shower so as not to disturb me talking to you. So let's release him from the bathroom and I'll show you some more footage of what we're getting up to. Bye.
We are on our way to the World War II Museum, which is massive here because I've been learning up on my geography and my history. It's where everything kicked off for the start of the Second World War because Gdansk was contested between Germany, its German name is Danzig, and Poland. So looking forward to having a knowledgeable day. It's a pretty beautiful walk along the water, and I'll show you some stuff inside. Bye. Update. I haven't done much reading, but I thought I'd update you on what we've been getting up to. So we did go to the War Museum this morning, and it was really good. It was more of a comprehensive history of the Second World War than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be more about the history of Gdansk or Poland through it, and obviously it was very much like from a Polish perspective, but included like a lot of context, which is I'm always really interested to see how different emphases are placed on like global events in different cultures, because it like mentioned the Spanish Civil War, and my partner and I were both reflecting on the fact that like we did not necessarily study that as part of the like context of the World War, so that was interesting. Also, and if you know about this, I would like to hear more about it, but there was towards the end they were talking about the German Enigma Machine, and according to this museum it was a Polish mathematician who first broke the German Enigma Machine and then presented at a conference of which Bletchley Park code breakers were invited to, and they then built on the success, and then Turing came into the picture, etc. But their view is very much that it was a Polish mathematician who first did it, which is not the version of history that I have been taught. So if you know about that, I'd be very interested to have a chat with you. And now we are going to the theatre. I think I mentioned in a previous clip that we were going we went for a walk to find the Shakespeare Theatre Company, or the Shakespeare Theatre in Gdansk. And we're going there tonight to see a complete works of Shakespeare abridged, which is like a three-hander that was originally obviously in English, but has been translated into Polish. And we're pretty good with Shakespeare. My other half is an actor and he does a lot of Shakespeare. And so we're sort of backing ourselves to be able to follow this despite not really speaking a word of Polish. So I'll let you know how that goes. And see you later. Bye. I don't know if you'll be able to hear me, but we're at the theatre and we just went to buy our tickets. And the guy who was so sweet on the ticket office was like, you do know the entire show's in Polish, right? Because obviously we couldn't even like order our tickets in Polish. And he thinks we're very, very strange.
Yo, this is editing Hannah from the future. I think at this point I just forgot to do straight to camera updates, so all I have from this point on as I went to edit the video is just B-roll with nothing to stitch anything together. So that's good. Showing my professionalism once again. So what did I even need to talk to you about? Oh, okay, so the last thing you'll have seen is the Shakespeare Theatre. So that was really good. It was funny, but we did leave at the interval. And we ummed and ahed about it, partly because we were really hungry, and partly because there were some parts of it that were very physical, and so we could kind of follow along, but there was a whole chunk of it that wasn't, and was just in Polish, and we just had like absolutely no way of knowing what was going on. But the actors were amazing. It's a really cool theatre. And yeah, you could tell that all the performers were really good and the audience was really enjoying it. But just, you know, I think by the interval, we felt like we had a good idea of what it was, and we weren't necessarily going to get anything more from it. So we went for dinner instead, and I will insert some footage of our dinner here, to a really great vegan restaurant that we found, and yeah, I'll show you that. I'll just keep talking. I'm trying to remember what the B-roll is. Yes, we got some dinner, and then the following day we decided to take a mini little trip up to Westerplatte, which is where the war actually broke out. It's like right up on the coast, and it was stressful getting there because it just said like get the tram, so we were like cool, we'll get the tram, and then we got on the tram and it turns out that you can't buy tickets on the tram, and there wasn't anywhere at the stop that we were to buy tickets. And we tried all of the apps that they suggested, and every single one of the apps required a Polish mobile phone number. So we couldn't pay for the tram, but it was kind of like a trust system. So we were just panicking for the entire journey. We were only on the tram for about 10 minutes, and we accidentally stole a journey from that tram operator. So sorry about that. And it didn't massively go up from there. There were some really like interesting bits about Westerplatte, but like I think unless you're really into the war and you know a lot about it, they were obviously like in the process of building like maybe like a more scaled up exhibition or kind of memorial there, but it was just a lot of it just kind of felt like an empty bit of barren land, and then there was this one building that was there that was all caved in, but there was nothing really there was a memorial garden for the people who lost their lives there, which gave some information, but like not a lot, so you kind of had to, I think, come at it with quite a lot of like understanding or information, which we didn't really have. So that was probably not worth the trip. And then, yeah, we just had another really chilled day. Went up in this wheel that we'd been seeing. It was across the water from our hotel room. And yeah, we'd said we would go on our last night, and we did. And that was lovely. And yeah, I'll just carry on talking vaguely while I show you the last of this footage, if there is some. But yeah, it was a really, 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 really lovely trip. And we got back on Thursday night. And then it's now Monday. It's Monday night. So I really should have edited this and wrapped it up sooner, but I was tired and then, you know, had weekend plans and stuff like that. So I didn't, but I have just been editing the video and was like, I really don't talk about books a hell of a lot. So let me talk to you about them now. The benefit of the fact that I'm editing this a little bit after when we got back is that I've actually now finished 3 of the books I was reading, and I'm nearly finished the other one. So I can actually talk a little bit more like well-roundedly, I guess, about what it was. But so here ends the Gdansk part of this video, if that's why you were here. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know when I'll next be travelling around, but feel free to like and subscribe anyway, and hit that little notification bell in case I happen to go on holiday again. Which I don't think I will be doing anytime soon, but never mind. And we'll chat books now. We'll chat books. So first up, I finished The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, and yeah, I really liked this. I thought there was something about Hallie Rubenhold's writing that was so... I have read a fair bit of historical non-fiction, and it's something that like I always feel drawn towards because I want to, it's the sort of thing I want to read, but I often find the writing style can be quite like overly formal, and sometimes like it's like you have to bring quite a lot of like pre-knowledge to the table that, because I have a brain like a sieve, I don't always have, and I can find like reading historical books quite frustrating a lot of the time. But this was really, really great because it was so detailed and so well researched, but yet it didn't sound, in the nicest way possible, she didn't sound like a historian. You could tell all of the historian work had gone into it, but this read very much like a popular history book, and I do not in any way mean that as a slur. I actually think it's infinitely harder to do, because I think if you are someone who comes from a historical kind of like academic-y background, writing the like fancy stuff often comes a hell of a lot easier than kind of dumbing it down for the lay people. But I think I learnt so much about these women, but far more broadly about Victorian London and what it was like for working class people. And in fact, not even all of these women started off as working class, but how precarious life was, and how for women especially, you know, your husband could die and then that is basically your life over, because there's only limited ways for you to earn money, and you will likely get separated from your children, you'll end up in workhouses, and it was grim. It was really, really grim, but not in the way that you might expect a book about the people murdered by Jack the Ripper to be grim. It is not gratuitous or sensationalist at all. In fact, there's basically like these big chapters on each of the 5 women, and then this tiny little page at the end of every chapter that doesn't even talk about how they were killed. It just talks about how they were identified and how the families were informed, and throughout each kind of chapter you are building towards how this woman ended up in Whitechapel and kind of ended up crossing the path of this killer, but never in a way that felt at all like overly like sensationalizing. So I really thoroughly recommend it. There's also a bit at the end where she lists the objects that were found on their bodies when the police found them, and there was just something about that was so desperately sad and haunting. That wasn't there for the fifth woman, Mary Jane, because she was killed in her room, in her bedroom. She didn't have kind of like her objects on her because she was in her house and was just in her like nightdress. But all the other women were obviously, it would appear, sleeping on the streets for one reason or another. And so it kind of lists, and you get a kind of glimpse through that of what they treasured and what they felt they needed to get through things that were either too precious or not precious enough to pawn and things like that. But yeah, so thoroughly recommend this. But I mean, I know it did the rounds for a long time, a couple of years back, so lots of people have probably heard of it already. I finished my audiobook, Waterland by Graham Swift, which this is a harder one to talk about. It's a historical fiction book that follows, is narrated by a man called Tom Crick, who is a history teacher in the Fenlands, so sort of Cambridgeshire,